Happy Labor Day, everybody. Today is Monday, the 5th of September, and in Canada and I believe the United States, this is the final long weekend of the summer, and it is Labor Day. And first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Rachel. I'm the host of Church at Home with Rachel, and my name is Rachel Parker. My pronouns are her, she, her, and hers. I'm an Anglican priest in southeastern Alberta, the Diocese of Edmonton, up here in Canada, and I currently serve the churches of St. Thomas in Wainwright and St. Mary's in Edgerton, a small town and a village. I'd like to chat with you a little bit today about what Labor Day can mean and what I think it really should mean. There are lots of people who recognize that Labor Day came about because of our unions, both above and below our border. We have some strong unions that do some really good work. Now, there are people I know who would argue that unions are a pain in the butt. And I know there are people who are completely thankful for unions because they have done such incredible work to get them health care, to get them good wages, to make sure that their working situations are actually safe. And so whatever side of the opinion you have about whether unions are a good thing or not, let's just agree to disagree today and enjoy the fact that because of labor unions, we can get a day off from our labor. Some people, I know there's lots of people out there who are working hard because other people are able to have the day off. And we don't just shut the world down. A lot of things, more than we realize, stay open on days like this so that others can enjoy a little bit of peace and time with family. So what is labor? I think labor is that anything to which we put ourselves into it. We work hard for. Labor can be easy. Sometimes people enjoy the jobs that they have, and so it doesn't feel like they're going to work when they get up in the morning, or they get up at night to go to work a night job. It's something that they enjoy. For some people, labor is just that thing that affords them living, that pays the rent or the mortgage, that puts food on the table, that makes sure that they can, insure their cars and make sure their kids get off to school, things like that. A labor is essentially the job that we have, what we put ourselves to, what we spend our energy doing so that hopefully we can benefit by receiving a paycheck or some form of living. It seems that I don't know that it's gotten worse or whether it's cyclical, sort of like up and down or what, but above and below our 49th parallel here, it seems that there has been an awful lot of disparaging of certain kinds of labor. Back in January of 2022, when our Freedom Convoy sort of took over Ottawa, not the prettiest and happiest memory for Canadians, there were people who were actually physically unable to go to work, to go to their labor, because their businesses where they worked had to be shut down because of the traffic and the protest, and people were unable to get there. And in some cases, it wasn't safe for them to be there. We were still dealing with the pandemic, and people were refusing to wear masks in workplaces where, like stores and restaurants and places where people were asked to please wear your mask, and people were refusing. And so businesses were finding that they needed to shut down. Some people weren't physically able to get to their work, even if their work wasn't closed, because they couldn't get through the barriers. They couldn't get through the people. And some people were feeling physically threatened. And so some people who started out being angry because they were told they couldn't provide their labor by driving across the border because of the mandate, the vaccination mandate at the border for truckers needing to be vaccinated to drive into the United States, because they felt that they were being mandated out of their labor, they were being forced to not be able to work. Although I would argue that if they had taken the vaccination, they would be able to work. So that was their own choice. However, an argument for a different day. Because they were unable to work, they moved to protest in our nation's capital in Ottawa, in Ontario. And then their protest actually stopped other people from being able to work. So, and that's a different way of thinking about labor. We are becoming countries that are splitting on fault lines that are very, very fragile, determining those who have the right to tell other people what to do for their livings, and also the right to be able to tell them how much they should be paid. And those who are saying we want to work for a living wage, we actually as human beings deserve the right to be paid well. That we shouldn't have to work a 40 or 50 or 60-hour week and then still not be able to pay for rent or a mortgage, not be able to put food on our tables and clothing on our children's backs. There's a problem when your paycheck that you've honestly worked for does not match up with the expenses that you are honestly trying to pay to meet. Now, if your paycheck isn't meeting your expenses because you have, habits like alcoholism, or you have addictions, and things like gambling or drugs or something that are costing money away from you, that's a whole different area in which we need not lay blame, but we need to help people. We need to assist them in finding help. How can we help them to beat their addictions? How can we help them to budget? How can we help them to make good decisions? But the reality is there is a huge percentage of our countries, of our populations of our countries, who work hard. Many people working more than one job, some people working 2, 3 jobs, just to make ends meet, and are still not able to do that because things cost so much. And I'm not speaking about inflation, because this is not something that happened, since Russia invaded Ukraine, or when we had, ridiculous debates about whether or not what taxes should be. I'm talking about this as a long-standing problem, the kind of problem that created the need for things like food banks and homeless shelters. We have systematic reforms we must make, because we have a lot of people out there who are willing to work if they could find jobs that they were qualified to do, that they could be hired to do, and they could afford to do. When my stepson was living with us a few years back, he was thinking about getting a job in construction. And there was no guarantees. He could be hired, but he might be fired the first day, depending on how he do. But in order to even get that job, he was going to have to show up on the work site with a hard hat, with the vest, the reflective vest that would, if he was standing out in the road with a stop sign at construction, that people could see him, and the steel-toed boots. We sort of went looking for that. I think we went to Mark's Work Warehouse and places like that to sort of gauge how much money he would have to spend to get the job, like to start the job and see if he was able to keep the job. And we were looking at close to $500 that this young person who had no money saved up because he hadn't yet had a job would have to spend in order to basically apply for the job. He couldn't even be hired if he didn't have these things. That's a catch-22. Somebody is willing to work hard to earn an honest paycheck, but in order to do that, they need to have certain things as prerequisites. They need the equipment, the clothing, the uniform to be able to do the job. They need the education to be able to do that job. I spoke on Friday about education and the importance of education. Whether it's trades or college or university, or whether it's not a formal, book learning education, but simply getting experience in a job, it's very difficult to find that if you don't have resources available to you. And quite often, the resources that are available to everyone, according to all the pundits out there, they're out there. Nobody's stopping you from doing this, except the tuition, except the cost of getting to where the resources are, the cost of applying, the need for the equipment or the uniform. All of these things are hindrances to people who are honestly trying to make a better start in their lives, to get that job that they can have Labor Day off, or to get that job that they will work at McDonald's or Dairy Queen or Taco Bell or in the hospital or in a hotel or at a campground or an amusement park. All those people who work on those days when other people get to have a long weekend and a holiday. Priests, we work on all the long weekends too. Not complaining, I'm just saying that Labor Day, that sense of working to get time off isn't even necessarily clear-cut across the board. There are some people who work all the time. You never see a hospital that has people not working. Christmas does not shut down a hospital. Some of the staff may be home, but there will still be people in that hospital. Gas stations, 7-Eleven. I don't know what the American equivalent of that is. I think you have 7-Eleven. But things like that. We have people who are working even when other people are able to take time off. I think the big thing we need to pay attention to is appreciation. We need to stop yelling at each other about you don't work hard or you're too lazy or if you just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, you'd be fine. We need to stop laying blame and pointing at others. We need to look around at each other and say, I appreciate what I have, and I appreciate that I have a job so I can work hard at that and I can help others. But how can I, in those moments when I'm not working, help someone else? What can I do to participate in fixing our society? Not putting a Band-Aid on it, not saying I'm going to do this or I'm going to vote for this particular person because they're going to create more food banks. How about we figure out what we can do to create the solution to the problem that causes the need for food banks? How about we figure out ways to not drive the cost of housing up so much that there are people who are homeless, people who do not have houses, a roof over their head because they can't afford it, even if they're working? How can we fix that problem so that everybody has a safe place to lay their head, to get rest, so that they too can get up in the morning and go to their job knowing that their children are fed, there's a safe and secure place for them to come home to, for them to refresh themselves and get up and go back to work. On this Labor Day, let's not just be appreciative, of course we should be, but not just be appreciative of the work that we do and the work that others have done before us to make sure our workplaces are safe and that we have a living wage and all of those wonderful things that other people have striven for, and have created for us. Those things that we now have the responsibility to make sure happen for those who come after us. Let's not just give thanks for those things, but let's also open our eyes to recognize the ways that we can help the rest of society step up and lift up and encourage and enable others to be able to enjoy the things that we do. Because probably 95% of the people who are able to watch this video have most of the things they need, including internet and some kind of a technology gizmo so that they can watch this. But there are people out there who have to go to the library or to go to a friend's to be able to use this kind of technology. Not because they're slackers, not because they're lazy, but because life has handed them some lemons. How can we help them make lemonade? And then how can we go out and buy that lemonade to give them a good start in life? This Labor Day, let's give thanks for labor, and let's work together to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to help provide that labor and participate in the rewards of that labor. Have a wonderful day, and I hope that this day brings you peace and hope, a paycheck or a day off, time to play with family, time to go walk on the beach, or whatever you need this day to bring. I pray that it does bring it to you. God bless you, and I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.